Tempo is everything. From the way we dance to the way we speak. The moment bleeds into the next, which bleeds into the next, which bleeds into the next. And it's that rhythm that lulls us in. Whether it's a public speaker, a show, or a good book, we see this principle practically everywhere. But one issue I see specifically in games is the lack of that sauce. The lack of that punchy flavor we call a plot twist. Game developers make gameplay loops that work so well that they forget to switch it up, and the actual regions of the game blend together just a tad bit. So I'm gonna talk about a game that prevents this really well, that me and the homies collectively dropped, well not collectively, me and the homies individually each dropped 33 hours in over the course of 6 days because we were instantly addicted to this game. Anyways, enjoy the video. This is Shroomin. He runs at you, you dodge the attack, and then you attack him back. It's the first enemy you fight, so it's gonna be easy. But once you explore for a little bit, you'll encounter an enemy known as the Shroomin Brute. They're basically bigger, stronger Shroomin, and honestly quite scary when you're playing for the first time. But the most intimidating part is that every attack you do to the thing only does 1 damage. It's only upon further investigation that you come to realize that the Brute has the same attack as its little cousin, the difference being that it sheds its armor upon impact. And this right here is an example of really good positioning. Most games operate on a bell curve, the x-axis being skill level and the y-axis being repetition. When you first start the game, the fights are scrappy and memorable. I definitely remember frantically running around and when I was playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, blowing up random bokoblins and just doing random stuff. And it's only after you learn the attack patterns and behaviors and game logic that everything starts to become more premeditated, perfectly spaced, meta, etc. And the newness that you grew accustomed to at the beginning of the game only sets in again after the full depth of the fighting system reveals itself later in the game. And as such, for the first bit of most games, combat actually becomes less interesting the more you progress. But the Shroomin Brute prevents that. You dodge, you attack. It's just as interesting at the beginning of a playthrough as it is at the middle of one. And that's what good and varied positioning does for a game's world. Oftentimes, the actual tools a player uses to overcome challenges doesn't change throughout a playthrough, but instead the context and ramifications of using those tools are what changes. And the culmination of those bits and pieces of context and their resulting ramifications is known as battle tempo. We can see this game design in action within The Forgotten Ruins possesses 2 walking calamities that you need to avoid, the Caveling Brute and the Caveling Shaman. The Brute goes up to you and slams a giant wooden club. It does a pretty devastating amount of damage, but to be honest, you can dodge or parry it pretty easily. Then there's the Shaman. They stand afar and shoot fireballs at the player. The damage is again pretty devastating, but also, then again, is more or less easy to dodge. So what makes this biome so difficult? In my opinion, it's the plain old Caveling. They don't attack with fireballs or swing massive clubs, but they're fast, and it's that speed along with their numbers that lets them slow the player just enough to shrink the gap between the player's ability position and the Shaman and Brute's ability position. As such, you get a completely different battle tempo from what we saw in the starting area. It's not dodge attack, it's instead managing the Caveling grunts whilst trying to find openings to kill the more major threats. In the starting area, you face opponents head on, dodge or parry their attacks, and then punish. The slime variants along with the Shroomin variants both follow this formula. The Forgotten Ruins, on the other hand, will have you running for your life and overall playing more evasively until you can decisively take down the threats you need to. The context you're left with within the Forgotten Ruins and the Underground is completely different. We can see this in how the ramifications of pairing a Shroomin Brute is completely different from the ramifications of pairing a Caveling Brute. And if you remember what I said earlier, it's those ramifications along with little bits and pieces of context here and there that define tempo, as I call it. And this diversity in overall tempos between worlds is continued in The wilderness is like a thick jungle. Pockets of bright red, scarlet ore contrast the sea of green quite nicely. And the fact that the stone, or stone equivalent, is called grass block was a pretty fun subversion of expectations since most games start you in a grassy area rather than make you work up to a grassy area. But the main component of this area that affects the tempo has to be the terrain and how it interacts with a curious species of slime. The jungle is thick, creating a lot of natural choke points that are made worse by all the poison slime that's just about everywhere. The poison slime, as in the creature itself, and Core Keeper maintains the trope of a challenging but weak enemy, but subverts the trope of making the slime leave trails of poison everywhere. which makes this a good time to introduce a familiar game mechanic. Core Keeper has status conditions, but unlike a lot of other games, it's actually pretty inspired. It's not just different variations on damage over time, and in Core Keeper's case, poison takes away your ability to heal, so you just can't gain any health from food buffs, potions, or any other source while poisoned. So stepping in it forces you to play more defensively until the condition expires, or just camping out altogether. So the template the biome encourages has you slowly shoveling poison off the ground whilst taking out poison slimes, and they don't even aggro the player unless attacked, so you have to seek them out and not the other way around. In all these factors, the poison effect forcing you to take a breather, the natural choke points, and the slime strewn about the ground make for a very pensive and cautious tempo being favored within the region. So what better enemy to populate the zone with than Americans? The rifle-wielding cavelings are 1. A very surprising addition to what's more or less been a pretty medieval game, and 2. One of the player's first introductions to the world itself becoming their enemy. The biome forces you to slow down and take your time within a very visually busy and dense jungle, and the primary enemy it puts you up against is a camouflaging sniper. Absolutely devious and a scholar example of Core Keeper's varying tempos. When I first went to this biome, obviously I died a lot, but what got me the most success was walking slowly through the forest while focusing on defense. I had mostly been a magic summoner up to this point, but the forest forced me into the role of paladin, trekking my way throughout the forest whilst ready to block an ambush's bullet at any moment. Of course, not all of Core Keeper's biomes demand such a slow tempo, which leads me to the biome right next to the deadly land of poison and grass. Hot, arid, and open, I could be referring to no other than When I first walked into the Desert of Beginnings, it was the beginning of me dying, the beginning of me getting my stuff back, and the beginning of me finding an absolutely busted ranged weapon, and the beginning of me fighting enemy after enemy after enemy, simply for the love of the game. This is when I truly began to fall in love in Core Keeper's combat, and when the game really started to feel less like an RPG sandbox and more like an honest-to-God RPG experience. Finding the enemies in these zones had me genuinely thinking I was playing either Crosscode or The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords. This was gameplay, and this is all from the tempo. Remember how I talked about the 2-stage combat at the Underground, or the enemy synergy within the Forgotten Ruins, or even the tapestry of mechanics within Azeos Wilderness? Well, the game design of this region is simple. Nalia, Zenin. They attack hard, they attack fast, they'll run circles around you, but most importantly, they might even suicide bomb you. And this is, it's so fun. It's so fun. Like, genuinely, this biome was the thing that made me think, oh, okay, this is Core Keeper. The amount of time I spent just fighting the caveling, I think I want to say dagger users or just the bomb scarabs, I had a lot of fun. And the fact that the rocks in this region is so hard, you have to use like bombs to mine out ore. And I thought that was like a really good, like, just using the bombs to mine out ore is almost like a mission where you're trying to like protect an area. You're trying to like protect the bomb, you're blowing stuff up. It's just a really good gameplay loop. Like, I remember grinding enemies so that I could level up, and then realizing that I can't even level up in this game. Like, you can't level up in Core Keeper. It's not an RPG, or not a hardcore RPG. And then I just continue to grind enemies, because genuinely this is my favorite part of the whole game. The Desert Beginnings is my jam, and as evident by the gameplay on screen, the zone is a far cry from the grassy death trap right next to it. Going between worlds of Core Keeper is like going from bullfighting to playing a horror game, and the breadth of battle tempos we see is insanely impressive, and puts his game design, dare I say, on a similar level to that of Terraria's. Core Keeper's world design is master class. I can't think of a single game with the same level of diversity and coherence within its combat system that this game offers. There's a reason why me and my friend have hopped on at 6 p.m. and said we play for like 3 hours, and then started playing or kept playing till 3 a.m. multiple times, bro. And the craziest part is the music, the art, and other components of the game are stupid fun as well. The bosses, peak. Raising animals, peak. Cooking, surprisingly good. Art and music, need I say more, bro? Play Core Keeper, please. Just play Core Keeper, bro. It's so peak, bro. Like, it's one of those games, like, I was in a rut. I was in a gamer rut, bro. Like, I just kept playing games. Like, I couldn't keep my like focus for more than like an hour and a half. Yeah, I'd be like, I'm done playing, and then it'd be like 40 minutes. I just like, dang. It's not like the good old days back in middle school where I used to play Brawlhalla for 13 hours straight. You know what I mean? I just can't. I couldn't play games, bro. But like Core Keeper, it got me out of that hard, bro. Like, I just started playing for like hours, bro. Like, it'd be like 2 a.m. I'd be like, all right, bro, we should probably go to sleep. He's like, yeah. It would be 5 a.m. It's like, we should probably sleep. It's like, yeah, I got work in the morning. I'm like, dang, you're cooked. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, dang, bro. Like, it was fire, bro. It was low-key peak. But anyways, genuinely have a nice day, bro. Like, just have a nice day. And what's it called? Bro, just drink something that tastes good, bro. Drink something that tastes good. That always makes me feel better. All right, peace.